If you can make it through this 10-second intro, you'll be satisfied by 20 dashcam videos, including scary smashes, crazy close calls, wayward wheels, and more. Buckle up, it's about to get bumpy. Nick's Acura MDX was totaled after colliding with a car while moving at only 13 miles per hour. He was in a straight-only lane when the driver of an oncoming Honda Civic cut through traffic and collided with Nick's front wheel. The impact bent the control arms and prevented the Acura from moving. Sadly, that's not the end of the story. The Honda driver immediately blamed Nick for the collision, and when Nick said he was going to notify the police, the Honda driver said he was late for work and fled the scene. Incredibly, the Civic's license plate fell off and was left behind, making it easy for the cops to look up the driver's insurance info. His insurance provider took full responsibility and totaled Nick's SUV. Here's where the story takes a positive turn. When the insurance company sent Nick a check for the value of his vehicle, which they let him keep, Nick used the money to repair it. He sent us some photos of it after he'd fixed it. Nick doesn't know if the police ever tracked the Civic driver down, but either way, he's glad his MDX is back on the road. Sadly, I don't think this next MDX is going to have the same fate. Ethan's father was taking his sister to Boston when they watched an MDX pull across a busy road and get T-boned by a Jeep. Ethan said the speed limit here is 45 miles per hour, but he thinks the Jeep was going faster than that. It seems the Acura driver had been trying to turn left, but the SUV that stopped in the center turn lane for the Jeep had blocked them. Jordan was headed to work one morning on a highway where the speed limit is 65 miles per hour. Watch what happened when a car shot past him at a speed he estimates was over 80. A police Durango was sitting on the inside shoulder and immediately took off after the speeding sedan. Jordan told us this section of highway is notorious for speeders. At least that one got a taste of instant justice. Ash was on her way to a medical appointment and had stopped in a left turn lane when a Ford SUV whose driver wasn't paying attention slammed into the back of her Nissan Pathfinder. The impact ripped the data cable out of the rear dashcam, which is why the video cut off instantly. Thankfully, first responders arrived quickly once 911 was called. The story doesn't end there. While Ash and her two daughters were all okay, the driver responsible was uninsured, and they were driving a rental car, and they even used a fake driver's license. All of this means Nate and Ash's lawyers are having a hard time figuring out who was even driving the Ford. Ash even ended up losing her job because she doesn't have a way to get to work anymore. We're all praying that the case is resolved and that everything goes back to normal. Quincy was approaching an intersection when he noticed smoke rising. As he got closer, he noticed a car on fire. Since he'd only just passed a fire station, he sped back and informed the firefighters of the blaze. By the time he'd turned back around to head home and made it back to the same intersection, the firefighters had arrived and were battling the inferno. He stayed out of their way and continued on his way home. Steven was headed down a highway express lane when he watched a car lose a wheel, which bounced across the highway and nearly struck his Ford Focus. Thankfully, Steven avoided colliding with the tire before swerving around it, and he told us nobody was immediately behind him. He didn't stop, but he told us the car that lost the tire was able to safely pull over. Dan was headed down the interstate with his wife and daughter when they heard a loud scraping sound coming from behind them.
Oh my gosh!
After noticing the semi-truck that had overturned after taking an exit faster than the 25-mile-per-hour speed the signs recommend, Dan turned around and called 911 while his wife and daughter checked on the driver. Thankfully, the driver was okay, and Dan wanted to shout out his wife Deidre and daughter Madison for putting their medical training into action by assisting the driver before first responders arrived. Kyle was behind a Ford pickup truck whose driver was tailgating, cutting off other drivers, and having no success in beating traffic. Suddenly, he forced a driver to swerve to avoid a collision, but this was no ordinary hatchback. When the blue lights came on, I bet the pickup driver was as surprised as Kyle that the VW was actually an unmarked police car. Instant justice was served while Kyle told us he kept driving with a smile on his face. Rusty had just exited a roundabout when another driver sped past him on the inside, but he clearly wasn't paying attention to the slowing traffic ahead. The Honda slammed into the back of a Mazda 2. Rusty stopped to help, and thankfully, nobody was injured. Both cars had to be towed away, and Rusty gave the Mazda driver a copy of his dashcam footage. Rusty captured this footage a few years ago, and he told us he now has a Model Y and can't wait to send videos to Wham Baam Dashcam. Speaking of, Wham Baam recently did a head-to-head comparison between an aftermarket dashcam and his own Tesla's built-in Tesla cams. Go check it out over on the Wham Baam Dashcam channel after this video, of course. Lawrence was driving with his dog when a Subaru hatchback merged into his lane, nearly sideswiping his Hyundai Santa Fe. Thankfully, Lawrence was able to slam on the brakes and swerve, sparing him and his dog from a collision with the spacey Subaru. Cole was leaving a parking garage when he watched an SUV turn into the entrance before the driver changed his mind. Now, the parking garages I've been to will let you leave without charging you if you exit within a few minutes of entry, but this guy must have not known about that. He tried to back out of the garage before hitting another car. The vehicle he hit was a Toyota RAV4 occupied by two women who were out grocery shopping. Cole wasn't going to stop, but then he heard the SUV driver accusing the RAV4 driver of hiding behind him while he backed up. Cole stopped and gave a copy of his footage to the RAV4 driver. He told us nobody was injured, but both driver's side doors on the RAV4 were destroyed. Craig was about to continue after stopping at a stop sign when he captured this week's Tesla behaving badly. That Tesla man can't drive. Even though Craig had arrived at the stop sign first, he was forced to hit the brakes as the white Model Y turned in front of him. Bad Tesla, bad Tesla. Carlos watched the driver of a pickup truck rear-end a taxi after failing to notice it stopping until it was too late. Carlos told us the truck driver was on his cell phone, but that can't be seen in the video footage. He told us he loves Wham Baam Dashcam and Wham Baam Dashcam. Psst, Carlos, don't forget about Wham Baam Security Cam. Ira was headed home from work when a black pickup pulled out in front of him while he was going over 50 miles per hour. Ira slammed on the brakes and honked, slowing to 30 miles per hour in seconds and barely avoiding T-boning the pickup. He told us he's glad he pays attention while driving, unlike some people. Michael needs your help with this one. He just dropped his son off at Taekwondo and was leaving the parking lot when both he and another driver backed into each other. Michael told us nobody was injured and he filed an insurance claim, but he can't decide who he thinks is at fault in this situation. What do you think? Let him know in the comments. CM was driving in Austin when he encountered a self-driving cruise taxi stopped in the middle of an intersection with its hazard lights on. Along with other drivers, CM carefully drove around the stumped Chevy. He told us he's ridden in them several times and it's an awesome experience, but they do tend to randomly glitch out and stop. He said a cruise employee came about 15 minutes later and moved the car, but this whole story must be fake news. I've been reliably informed that LiDAR sensors are the only reliable way for self-driving technology to work. Ryan and Frankie told us they overtook a vehicle that was going 25 miles per hour in a 50 mile per hour zone. Check out what happened after the driver they'd passed got offended by their overtake. As usual, we're taking our submitter's word for what happened prior to the video, but after clipping the front of their Ford Focus, the driver of the van began a confrontation that nearly ended in fisticuffs. Thankfully, nothing violent ensued. Ryan and Frankie didn't tell us what happened after, but we hope everything was properly resolved. Matt was heading home in his Jeep Wrangler Sport when a Ram ProMaster van pulled out in front of him to cross a highway with a speed limit of 55 miles per hour. Matt continued to cruise after closely circumventing a collision with the Clueless caravan. Cool! Karen was waiting at a red light on her way home when she watched two drivers speed up to beat a yellow light before slamming into each other at high speed. Karen stopped and checked on the drivers. Conveniently, firefighters witnessed the collision and responded in seconds. This happened on a Sunday night at about 8 p.m., and Karen told us both drivers smelled like alcohol. Sadly, she described the vehicles as definitely totaled. She offered her dashcam footage to the firefighters, but they never called her to get it. She told us she hopes this video might inspire someone to not drive after drinking. She also told us she's thankful her boyfriend bought her a dashcam and that they watch every Wham Bam video together. Awesome! If you're a fan, be sure to subscribe so you'll get every new episode in your feed. Joseph was on his way home from kayaking when he spotted a wild fox running around in the road. Joseph told us this happened a week after our channel inspired him to get a dashcam. If you need one, don't forget to check out the brand the Wham Bam team uses in our own vehicles down in the description.
Wham Bam, we got a Patreon, man. Please support the show.